guys, if you are about to watch this video, which hopefully you are, we messed up and the camera was great. The camera's perfect, but somehow on the lines, we screwed up the recording. So for the first 40 minutes, there's not our beautiful faces, but it'll come there in 40 minutes and you get to see me in this nice shirt and Braxton looking cute and stuff. So, sorry.
It's okay. He's tired. He had school.
Yeah.
Enjoy the episode. It was a lot of fun.
Enjoy the book.
I was thinking, you go ahead. He's pointing his finger, audio listeners.
Welcome back, everybody, to a brand new episode.
As you can see, I took today seriously, and I wore a nice shirt, got some necklaces, some jewelry on for the podcast, some bling, some drip.
You haven't been wearing your necklaces that much lately.
Well, today I had to look good.
It wasn't for the podcast. It was for school.
Yeah, it was my baby's first day of school. When I was growing up, my mom used to take a picture of me outside.
Every time?
Yeah, every first day of the new school year, she'd take a picture of me right outside the house, post on her Facebook, and I kind of miss that.
Yeah, we're getting older, man.
Yeah,
time's getting away from us.
Especially when you're in grad school, the years don't really matter. It's just let's just keep moving along. I don't really get a break.
There's a lot of opinions on grad school and whether it's it's the man's way of keeping us involved in his systems, taking our money, getting us in loans.
I agree with that in almost all senses, except for, and maybe it's just because I'm biased because this is what I'm going for. Mm-hmm. For counseling, there's a lot of extra steps you got to do.
Yeah, I feel like a doctorate, it's a bit different.
Well, doctors don't go to grad school. They go to med school.
As extra school.
Oh, actually, a lot. My dad doesn't have a college degree because you don't finish it. You just go to med school. You do a year.
Is your dad a doctor?
Yeah, you do a year or two of undergrad, and then you get accepted to med school, and then you just leave that degree behind.
You just added so much more credibility to our podcast. We're backed by a doctor.
I don't know.
Does your dad support you doing this?
He doesn't listen to the podcast.
Has he?
No. He doesn't know what you're talking about.
Does he know I exist? Your mom knows I exist.
Yeah, they know you exist, and they know of the podcast.
Son, I don't know what you're doing, but I approve of it.
Well, there you see.
It.
Okay.
Approved by 1 out of 1 doctors.
Yeah. What your doctor? What's that phrase? 10 out of 10 doctors approve this.
It's 9 out of 10. Usually it's 9 out of 10. So we are 10% better.
There's one jackass out there that it's I'm not going to sign your stupid waiver.
Well, 10 out of 10 is too unbelievable. Working in the corporate world, you know that if you have a CSAT score, a customer satisfaction score of 10, people tend to not believe it. So you shoot for a 4.9 or somewhere around there. Unless you're really pompous, like the Googles and stuff.
I'm curious what the customer stat, the CSAT, is that what it's called?
CSAT.
CSAT. I'm curious what the CSAT rating is for counseling offices and.
Probably not very high.
Probably not very high. That depends. I know for psychiatric hospitals, they're very low.
Well, yeah.
Very low.
Tangent. The returned planes during World War II, they put armor on the spots where bullet holes were appearing in the planes that made it back.
Sure.
And that's
smart.
Not smart.
I mean, it's better to have more armor on it than none,
But they came back, meaning that those spots did not need to be as armored because they were fine. The planes that did die got shot in places that they were
But now
lethal.
wouldn't the shots through the bullet, because don't those hit people?
But I mean, they can. So
how do they armor the whole plane?
That is true.
I feel like that fixes the problem.
This is a whole study. They did incorrectly armor the portions of the plane of the people that came back. And it's they came back. Those spots are fine if they get shot. It makes me
think about how at least they were trying something,
Yeah.
The 747 planes, and maybe there's a pilot out there listening to this podcast, and they can correct me on this statement, but they don't seem like they've been upgraded in the last 20 years, 25, 30 years. It's we've had the exact same plane for a long time.
If it ain't broke, man. The Warner Brothers were right.
Because it's more money for them, I guess.
2 wings and your feet.
I would pay so much more money if we had a fast plane that could get me to, Tokyo or something in 4 hours, 3 hours instead of the 15 it takes now.
So so step 1, Ryan.
Screw the jet streams, man. I'm gonna make my own.
Step 1, get a lot of money.
Okay.
Step 2, get on one of those planes that can do that.
Well, I've thought about this.
After you get rid of the money.
I've thought about this, that all we need, because all the higher playing companies are all like in, cahoots with each other. And I've thought about this extensively. And I said, if I ever have a lot of money, or if I can get in touch with a guy that has a lot of money, we need someone that's like a third party that's not connected to those organizations to make their own, and that doesn't need to get bought out. And they make kick-ass planes. Just like Paizo did with 3.5 edition. They made a little fork and made Pathfinder. Then they made a second fork and made Pathfinder 2.
Yeah. So he handled the transition this week. Who is he? He's Ryan. Oh, he's drinking. I caught him.
He's Braxton.
This is the Dungeon Crawl, and today we're going to be talking about Secrets of Magic, a new supplement that's going to be coming out soon as of recording this episode.
As the listener, as you listen to this episode, the day it releases, the PDF should be on Paizo's website to order. We'll have a link in the description if I remember to put it in. And then if you want to order the full book, I believe it completely releases to purchase actually, I think you can pre-order it, but it'll be shipped, I think, by this Friday. I could be wrong by that statement. It was supposed to come out earlier, but it was delayed. And so we have it here now, and I'm excited. And I'm going to start with this caveat. We are new players to Pathfinder.
Yes.
We may not be the best to fully consume, judge, and review these concepts, and these are pretty beefy ideas in here. But I think we do bring a unique perspective of being excited, new players coming into a new game, seeing some new supplements. It's like you come into a new video game, there's a new DLC that just dropped. You're like, I can't wait to get to Shadowbringers. You're excited to get to this new gemstone. And that's kind of what this is for us.
Yeah. If somebody told me for these classes, there's 2 new classes in this book, that you should probably hold off on playing them until you understand the systems in the game better, I would believe them for these. Which we were told that for the classes we played for the beginner box, as they were from the advanced player's guide. Those, not so much. These, they interact with a lot of stuff. You need to know a lot about the interactions of the systems, what you can do, when, how, and why.
And if you're just now joining us, you came in through our Pathfinder episodes or more recently with our other content, you may have not been here for one of these new book releases, reviews that we do. The way we usually cover them, it's a little different when we do the adventure path modules and whatnot for D&D, but for content like this, we'll usually kind of cover the chapters in layman's terms, not really diving deep into it. If you want to get into deep with it, you can either hop in our Discord and chat about it or purchase it yourself and read into it. But we just kind of give our general thoughts, our feelings, our impressions as we check it out.
It's interesting that you mentioned thoughts and feelings.
I know.
There's something I wasn't expecting at the end of this book.
That's chapter 5, everybody.
Hang around for that one.
We're starting with chapter, or we should start. Maybe we should start with how we always start. It's just do we recommend it? Do we recommend this?
Oh, hell yes.
Oh my God, that was fast.
Oh, hell yes. This is, and I hate to say the word essential for a supplement because they directly address it right in the beginning. Like, you don't need this. And if you have this, there's no other book that you need.
I really like that section.
Yeah. They're straight into the point on it. But the stuff in this is really cool. And there's a lot, and there's entire, like, almost like Pathfinder 2.5.1 E edition or whatever. Kind of just in like campaign setting stuff that you can change about your world that really gives DMs ways to alter a campaign.
The way Paizo separates their stuff is quite different in the way that WotC does their organization for their books. This kind of weaves the GM stuff with the player stuff kind of together. Yeah. And I think maybe it's because Golarian's such a important setting to Pathfinder, is that it's like, this is not necessarily knowledge everyone knows, but if you're a player, you might want to just be aware of this information.
Yeah. And I would say, me as a player, just first thoughts of finishing it is there's so much once you get to a lot of the DM stuff. Like, they go, okay, here's my pitch. You've got the guy sitting at the corporate table in the window ready to throw one guy out there, that whole meme. Somebody goes, okay, we want the players to read this as well, but we don't want them to be spoiled on everything that comes in the book. What if we just make a ton of spells and a ton of magic items so that they're like, I just can't read all of this right now? Right. Problem solved.
Yeah, I like that there's, it's not, because like WotC has the players section, DM section. Yeah. This is like free for all. Check it out. See, you'll read one of the classes in here. That's got some cool lore, or you read one of the magic items later, or some of the stuff in the 5th chapter. It's all kind of weaved beautifully in and out together with this, lovely, one of the first things I wrote here is the writing. It's just superb. It's very flavorful and fancy, and it goes in and out, and I love it.
And you're blasted right away with their wonderful art direction and how they flavor the book. The sides of every page has this nice image setting depending on like what you're looking at. And there's some excerpts from people within the world of Golarian talking about the systems of magic. This book goes over the essentials of magic. That's one of the first chapters. I mean, I love it. I think you should buy it. So I'm just going straight in.
Especially for the price point. The PDF, you just want the PDF, $14.99. $14.99. That's a steal for what you get here. And then the full print edition is $49.99.
There's so much cool stuff. So, introduction. I think when I started this, like from the point of view of a player, it's like this is a lot of like
lore
and the science per se, or lack of science behind magic in schools.
Yeah, and the different types of magic: the arcane, occult, primal, and is that a divine magic?
Yes. And those are the methods of spellcasting, different ways you get the powers of the world or the ley lines or whatever the magic system you have comes into your character. Like there are these excerpts, chapters from, Principles of Elementary Thaumaturgy, which is mostly for like wizards and people who study magic. It's inner workings on how to cast it and what ways. It's very methodical. And right away, the writing of it is cute.
Yeah, I love the framing device. This is all from a wizard's personal library.
Yeah.
And this wizard like collected these for us, the individual reading them, and said, hey, this might be of interest to you. Hey, you might want to check out this one too. They're all of the different schools and different types of magic. And it's very flavorful, very filled to the brim with delightful kind of Golarian lore and magic. And I think it gives you lots of stuff for GMs to kind of pull into not only just Golarian, because I think this kind of applies for all Pathfinder magic, but also for, as a player, RP purposes. Like if you're a wizard, this is stuff that you should know.
Yeah, so that's the first thing I thought while reading this. There's a particular narrative that I enjoy reading. The wizard one doesn't speak to me. I'm not the analytical type.
Well, see, I love, not to cut you off, because I see you jumping. Well, I see you jumping over the wizard. I just want to say.
Oh, I'm not going to skip past it.
Well, all I want to say is that I love how they organize the preparing stuff with the mind palace idea.
That's exactly what I was leading to. You ever wondered why there's 10 levels of magic that you can cast at?
Two different levels of the mind palace.
He has no idea. It's just been that way.
It's very cool.
But he literally just says, yeah, that's just why.
I like that it's it makes the gamify mechanics a part of the world. It makes it exciting. There's so many times in our D&D home game where the players you guys will be trying to discuss something. You're just like, fuck it. I got 3 spell slots left. You're being very upfront. Sure, slots are, kind of a part of the world as well, but very, just talking about the game mechanics. But here it's, I think it makes it a lot easier for a wizard player to RP that, this level of my mind palace is completely used up.
This is preparing you for the later portions of the book. And I was reading this, I'm like, when I'm playing D&D and I'm picking spells, I don't really decide, unless you have a class that makes you pick a certain school of magic in particular. But I don't really say, I'm only going to take conjuration spells or necromancy and flavor my character that way. But reading these made me want to do that. It made me want to be like, I'm going to play a character that's only doing evocation magic or conjuration or necromancy. It was really cool. The second one, of course, not the second one, it was the third one.
They cover divine.
They cover divine,
cool.
which I like. Hard for me to read.
Well, I like that it talks about the divine cantrips, which you use.
It reads like a Bible.
Yeah, but you use the divine cantrips in our Pathfinder 2e beginner box. But it says that they're just a little bit of a minuscule amount of a god's trust within you. It's very cute.
It directly
way
mentions
to put it.
oracles and other peoples of Nethys and whatnot. But in every single one of them, there's like a how this works, how you get it. The drawbacks don't come in yet. That's when they talk about schools of magic. But
yes, that is later.
For the occult one, I want to say Paizo, it's hard to read.
It is a little hard to read,
but oh, come on, screen. Don't do this to me. It's loading. There's a part in the end of the second paragraph of the occult one that says, Well, yeah, yes. At worst, these hobbyists conjure moments. No, come on. This is the hardness to read of it. At worst, the hobbyists conjure extra-dimensional horrors, dying to self-inflicted tentacles. Why does flawed occultism always involve tentacles?
It's a fair question to ask.
I don't know. It just made me laugh. It's like, you know what?
But that whole section oozes just unease for me.
Nice.
I love the. It feels like I could have read out of the Necronomicon or something.
Yeah, and then it follows it up with things of the primal nature, which is like druids and nature, etc. At least the handwriting's better.
No, it was also very interesting.
Yeah, handwriting's much better. And then it gets into essences. And this is where you draw stuff from it.
The cool thing about that section to me, and actually some of the sections coming up too, is that it's fair. I mean, it's fairly system agnostic too. So I would 100% take the info. I mean, as we've talked about in our old episode about my DM binder, I have so much Pathfinder first edition game.
That was my first intro to it at all.
Yeah, I got so much that stuff because they're so good at just giving you tools, giving you things to bring into your games, and this is no exception.
Yeah, everything in this except for the classes and mechanics in particular you could use.
Yeah.
Essences, I went into it, but it boils down to where do you pull your magic from, and how can you visualize what it is.
The same kind of praises we gave the other stuff, especially the little footnotes and the little, like someone writing in the margins. Very pretty.
Through what conduit does the magic come to this world? It's a fairly chonky section, but then they get into the schools of magic,
which they call the 8 arches of incantation.
Which they're bold. They start right away with abjuration being one of the most important ones, and I'm like,
I mean, it is. It protects people.
I know, but it's also
important.
The lamest. I'm just kidding.
Oh my god.
Abjuration's really. They make it more fun.
I mean, it's not my favorite, of course, but it's still very important.
Yeah. But I love how they structure these. They go through the flavor, they bring up the strength of it, and then they have, most of the time, except for abjuration, God, come on, a flaw, which they do mention, like, there's a flaw, but abjuration users, employers, benders, dare I say? I don't know. See their flaw as a strength, and it personifies the magic into its user. And I love how it's more lore for you to use.
They don't waffle too long about each one's a page.
It's basically 3 sections.
Very
Descriptor,
easy to
advantageous, ways to use it in a disadvantageous thing, like how the world sees it as well. Conjuration, like, is it summoning demons and devils from some sort of planescape, or is it just creating things out of nothing? That's a common debate that has actually been solved in Golarian, apparently. And then it keeps going on, saying like the things that you hate about divination, being able to just tell shit. It's like almost every town's got somebody here who just peddles money and says, "Oh yeah, your cat's over there."
Oh my god!
5 gold pieces.
Speaking of, it's not really jumping out. It's literally the next section, but the next one where it talks about the magical backgrounds. Oh my god! One of my favorite backgrounds is in there. The false medium. That makes me so happy. Yeah. It's a medium that's not he's not actually divining with anything. He's just pulling your chain to get some extra cash, and this is an actual background that they put into the game.
It's like a charlatan astrologist. It has tarot cards, or like it's the back alley crystal ball seer.
So funny.
Yeah, it was really cool. There are some that I liked in here, but when you get to the rare ones,
well, the other highlight for me here is the Eidolon Contact. I really like that one.
Wait, where's that?
That should be in the regular background.
Are you sure?
Should be.
I do remember reading it, but I don't remember where it is.
Let me check.
There it is. It's the 3rd one. It's right above false medium. Yeah. Yeah. So even if you're not a summoner, you can have the Eidolon Contact to have met one at least and just get some benefits.
Have some Lovecraft beasts.
Just a little touch. But then the rare magical backgrounds, it's like just flat out anti-magical. Is a little. I don't want to say busted.
Well, that's why the rare ones are up to GM's discretion.
Okay, yeah. They just flat out give you better benefits. The anti-magical one, for example, just makes people, whenever you use magic, get magic used on you, the user has to do a DC flat check of 3. And if they fail, it just doesn't work on you.
My favorites are the Seer of the Dead, Song of the Deep, and the Time Traveler.
Song of the Deep was my favorite. Time Travel was really cool, too.
Yeah, they're very interesting and cute little ideas.
You want to bring your
backgrounds.
Starfinder character into Pathfinder? Make him have the Time Traveler background.
So I guess that's true.
They probably already have methods to do that all over the place. Yeah, these are really cool. I love the backgrounds. They're more useful than in like traditional games that I've seen D&D, not to just riff on it a bit more, but usually it's a little bit of flavor that your DM and you forget about. Like the Sage background I have for my character. It's like usually know where to get information and lore. That's what checks and rolls are for. There's been a couple of new ones, like Kenneth and the Dungeon Chronicles, our actual play podcast that I need to remember more often. If he spends, I think, at least 8 hours or some time. Do you know
if that's a third party thing or is that an actual?
I think it is a third party thing.
Yeah, so
but for example, how to improve it. He can. People are just more friendly to him, which is varies in uses.
D&D backgrounds don't get brought up too often, but Pathfinder, each one is built in some way, giving you an extra feat, giving you an extra boon of some sort. Very cool.
You know what else gives you a lot of boons and stuff?
The next chapter.
Oh boy. So
chapter 2, these are the classes, and there are 2 new classes that are added. They are
the Magus. I don't want to hear any No.
Magus?
No. Stop.
Mag.
I don't want to hear anybody say that. Magus, Magi, Mini Magi, Magus.
And the other one?
The other one's a summoner. Nice and easy word. These 2, when I first go through Pathfinder and I think, what's missing? Literally these 2. Some sort of spell sword that can really employ the use of a weapon that gains the attributes of their spells. And when you whack them, it explodes with the energy of the incantation they've casted on it. And a true summoner, not somebody who uses a companion for varying levels of fun effects. Somebody who is genuinely bound and tied to this thing that they are bringing in. It's not just some conjurer. And,
which is crazy to think about. That these are not just, this is not like the big release that Paizo is doing this year. 2 new classes. There's more classes on the horizon. There's
sort of gunslinger mech dude.
And the next book, and then there's like a play test coming up with even more classes in there. It's Paizo just dishing out the content. And from my understanding so far, it's all been pretty good.
I mean, from what I've read here, it's already great. And they've got their 2 poster childs for the classes as well. Seltiel, some sort of elven fancy dude with like several blades at his side for which he can cast his spells on. And he looks super confident, cool, edgy. And then Ija, this like spunky summoner who's got this large pink dragon at her side. And she's charismatic and sharp. And they fight together, life and death. It's really, really, really cool.
Losers.
No, they're cute. I love them. Look at here. We even get. I don't know if you can tell right now. Here's a little bit of a spoiler. I don't
spoilers.
Look at that guy. Nice. Don't you want to be what he's doing right now?
I could have put that on the screen, but I like what you did even better.
Do you like it better?
Yeah.
It took me a bit to get the light correctly, but I've been talking for a bit.
But the Magus.
Did you decide to do that while you were reading it?
What? What do you mean, man?
Okay, come on.
It reminds me of kind of like an arcane monk in a way, a little bit of a monk.
Did you have to?
What?
For those of you that don't know, he pronounces monk very entertainingly, is how I'll put it. Monk. Now he's combined it into this one.
But the spell strike ability that this thing gets,
it's cornerstone of it.
Super cool. Yeah, it's the cornerstone, but it's how you imbue your attacks with this special powers and these spells. It seems that idea of itself is already a very strong mechanic, as you can see in some D&D stuff that's been brought out. But to build a whole class around it is very cool. And I really like. It seems like there's a lot of stuff to keep track of on your turns, especially at higher levels. But that seems like that's Pathfinder in a nutshell.
What I do want to say about Pathfinder is traditionally when I'm reading classes, I'm excited at the beginning. And it's a lot of stuff because it's just way more powerful than the other systems that we've played in. And then at high levels, it's less of a bombastic increase in power, which it is, but it reads more boring than the stuff that came. So I get generally a little bit tired by the time I finish a class, get the 20th level. I'm like, okay, I can do things twice. I can do this a number of times.
Sure.
Crazy big ultimate. That's just a general critique I have about Pathfinder leveling up. But there's so many more things that go into leveling up, like the feats that you get.
Yeah, a lot of customization.
Yeah, so that's what I'm not seeing. It's the Eldritch Invocation style feats that come into the classes that make it more fun.
I enjoy this class. It seems very cool.
Just put that guy on screen. I don't want to force you to edit stuff, because you'd have to green screen him out. He's really cool. What page is this? I don't know. When you guys get your hands on this, page 37. Look at him. He's
He's pretty
beautiful.
cool.
So the spell strike ability, you use 2 actions to cast a spell and make a strike, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to recharge it for 1 action, I believe, on your subsequent turn. So theoretically, you can do a spell strike and charge it in the same turn and keep doing it. But of course, you don't have your ability to move or stride after this. There are going to be things that you get later on that can expedite this, increase it. You can be quickened permanently, like at 20th level, which is like, all right, okay, cool. There's going to be specific spells that you get, and I forget the exact name of them, but things that go with your arcane cascade, which sounds really cool.
It does.
Do you know what that does?
I mean, I do. I don't know if we want to explain it to them. It's a lot of stuff to understand.
Well, to start off, it basically increases after you've cast this spell, you can continue maintaining the damage type of the spell you attacked and increase your weapon by your proficiency with it. 1, 2, or 3, depends on how good you are. So you're just in a state of whacking with elemental or acid damage or something and basically having an improved weapon at the same time. And there's different ways to increase it and alter and change it. And later on, since you are this versatile class, and this is kind of how I'll end it on, there's ways to identify the creature you're fighting against, because a big portion of this is getting into your arcane cascade, and it would suck if you entered into it and you're fighting like a flame demon and you weren't smart enough to think, I just cast a fire spell and now I'm hitting at it and doing no damage.
That'd be a problem.
There's an ability to block with your spell book by holding it up, reading it, to see what their weakness is, and you get a +2 to your
It's
AC
like a video game.
while doing it. And you're like, hold on, let me read for a second as this thing's trying to hit you, and it tries to whack at you, and you go block with the book. And there's further features that you can get to spec into a spell blade or a spell shield more so, and put a shield as a bookmark in your book.
Yeah, it's I think you mentioned that you get that later. That's a level 1 ability. Yeah.
Yeah. So raise the tome. It's literally you just pull your book up, start reading. You learn its weaknesses, possibly if you succeed the roll, and you raise your AC by 2. Just, how cool is that? The shield, I think, build for this class is a little less exciting. I think the thing that shines the most for this is the ranger, the ranged abilities.
Yes, I would agree.
Like that's going to be incredibly powerful.
But I think even using it with your fists, or I think that this is just a strong class of itself. And like I said at the beginning, it's tough for us to be full on gauges of how this works in game.
Yeah.
But just reading it, it seems very strong.
Yes, it
not
really
like
does.
in a Illrigger kind of way.
No. There's some stuff later on in the magic items and things that you can do to make this class really shine, like the inexorable iron. You kind of archetype yourself into a polearm user, which of course draw me to it, and you're able to give yourself temp HP pretty consistently, which is really, really cool. Become kind of a tank. And the way you get spell slots for this is it's kind of a cascade as well. You lose early level spell slots as you go down. So like when you're at level 14, you only have level 6th and 7th spell slots.
Like
whereas
a warlock.
Yeah. Well, but you can still keep those spells and they get upcast. You literally lose the spells of that slot. You can heighten them if you want permanently, but it's the same with the summoner. Okay, I'm sorry. These are literally just classes that I love.
Well, then introduce this next one, man. The summoner. This is your cup of tea. You always say that something you like in games is summoning shit. And it's literally the name of this class.
Yeah. So you, through whatever means, it depends on your character's background,
GM,
arcane, and your GM. Think about whether you want to be an occult caster, an arcane caster, a primal caster, whatever have you. Start there. And then you can kind of decide what kind of creature do you want. Do you want to be partnered with this dragon and a sigil appears on its forehead, like the poster character they have here, whose name is earlier on that I forgot. It's 3 letters or something like that. And it binds you, and the two of you are telepathically connected. You don't act on separate turns. You share the same 3 actions, reaction, everything. You are one connected being, which is super, super cool.
It's the Beastmaster class I've always wanted from 5e.
It is. It's pretty much that. And you've got the act together. It's 1 to 3, and that's what I've just described before. You can share senses.
It's like a stronger familiar kind of in a way.
And you share HP, which brings about some confusion in the way they describe the class. There's abilities that allow your Eidolon to take damage for you, but you share HP. So maybe there's some syntax I'm missing there. People that have the PDF right now in the comments, help me understand a bit more. The abilities still work properly, but when you read it at first, like, well, I thought we shared HP. There's basically a way to make your Eidolon become your martyr. But just to plow through the type of Eidolons that you can have, it's farther down in.
Yeah.
To me, there's an obvious best one if you want to just do damage, but quite often there is always that, like the Evocation Oracle that you can do with just casting fire shit all the time. Obviously, that one's going to do the most damage, but you can have some sort of a wrathful, vengeful spirit.
It's my favorite.
Is it?
Because it's cool.
They're all cool.
Yeah, but this is my edgy boy shtick.
Yeah, that's the Anger Phantom Eidolon. And if you want to be an occult caster and have something from the ethereal plane, somebody who died in the past and he made some sort of bond with you to enact something on the big bad evil guy of your campaign, we need to take him down so I can finally rest. An angel Eidolon that comes out and protects you, or a demon.
I like the demon one too.
Not necessarily just like if you come from 5e, demons in this aspect are everything from the abyss.
Yeah.
So they can be your goat-shaped minotaurs. They can be your tentacle aberration sort of dude. Anything. There's suggested attacks that you can meld to where how you and your DM have decided what this is going to look like. It is what I wish D&D did rather than say, come up with your own. They say, work with your DM, make something. Here's options.
Yeah, I think Pathfinder, what Paizo has, especially over WotC in this regard, is the amount of RP and examples and suggestions that they give you is bar none compared to WotC.
Yeah. Does it take more ink? Does it take more paper? Probably. But is it helpful in playing the game and getting your players to know what they want to do? Hell yeah. So, for example, the demon can represent a certain sin and make an opponent do I believe a wisdom or will save in this case, and it reduces some of their circumstances and penalties based off of that sin. You can flavor it there, but you read all these other abilities and a lot of them are statuses or maybe some social interactions, and the dragon just like it gets a massive breath weapon that has an AoE effect and it does the most damage. And if you want to be a big damage dealer, the dragon's the best way. Like the Fae just gives you some more spells to cast. So I think when you're reading through this, one of my problems of how they organize things, and I don't have a better solution, is the feats often are where the class is made. You start reading the Summoner after getting away from the Magus, and it seems a bit underwhelming at first. Like, what can we? Yeah, I honestly think so, because at 7th and 17th level, your Eidolon gets extra abilities, and it's not entirely clear because a lot of the times they say go check the feat that you can get at this level or the action that you can do, the italicized word that they have. So it takes you reading this and getting to that other section to be like, oh, so these are these linked actions. That's what these extra abilities that we get. Yeah. This is what the transcendence for
because you still
this
get
guy is.
To add on all these feats as well as your Eidolon leveling up as well.
Yeah. So, and the other thing I got a little bit sad about, and it makes sense with how they have companions in this, is that they all have a walking speed or a speed of 25 feet. Even if they have wings, even if they look like they should be able to swim immediately, even if they look like they could be able to breathe underwater, you have to get a feat for it. And the only feat that there is that I came across, I believe, could be wrong because there's a lot to pour over in a short time, but it's something that lasts for a minute that can increase the size of your Eidolon or make it into something greater than it is.
Maybe
only for a minute.
Paizo has found out that flying can be tough on a GM sometimes.
It is, because there's a feat that I wasn't so sure as to why it was great, but one of the first level feats is to be able to meld into your Eidolon. And it says there's some benefits and detractors for it. And right away, it's just like, well, you can't do anything and you can only take your Eidolon's actions.
Oh, here's one that's not a minute. You get a level 4, yeah.
Cool. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's good. So yeah, there's a way to basically turn into your Eidolon.
You can burrow, climb, fly, or swim with this feat.
Perfect. It takes a while to get there though. So if it has wings, just pretend that they're like clipped for a little bit until you evolve it. They flavor it in a way that makes sense.
Well, it makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense with you get another one at 14th, the airborne form. You get it makes sense with you because D&D also has it. Let's say I think Aarakocra always have it, but Aasimar,
they don't get their wings until like level,
Yeah.
I don't know, a higher
Makes
higher
sense.
level. They want to try to hold off on flying for as long as possible.
There is gliding as well.
Because there's a lot of adventure paths and things that are built around. And I guess it's okay to be able to have one player that's like, hey, I can take you across, but then you might miss a whole part of the adventure path.
Yeah. And I would say to help you visualize what this class plays like is there's like 2 or 3 ways to do it. One where you guys are in separate locations and you call to each other to protect against a certain instance. You fight together always, which technically makes attackers have advantage on damage rolls. So whenever the 2 of you are standing in one spot, the way Paizo's written it is they do both roll damage against the 2 of you and to hit against the 2 of you. AoEs, you take the larger sum of the number. So you roll 66 twice and you take the larger sum. So it is advantage technically because you have the same health pool. So think about that. Or you can turn into it and fight within it the whole time.
That sounds fun.
And there's a lot of different ways for this class to play, but overall you're going to feel very versatile. Like they've flavored these in the beginning and prepared for a lot of different situations. I was just thinking of, it might be stereotypical and it's literally how the class is presented already, but having a dragon and kind of flavoring it like something out of a Magic card or Dragon's Dogma and having a background like it would, there's so many ways to make this fun. And then they threw something in here like an aspect of the Raven Queen, a psychopomp. It's the bringer of souls to judgment so that they can, not like heaven or hell, but just like, I don't know, I see that word and I'm like, that's a cool word.
It is a fun
It's
word.
a death raven skeleton looking dude. Really cool.
Something that I noticed after reading these, we've read the core rule book and the advanced player's guide and some of the other stuff. And I've just now realized something I love about the Pathfinder classes. It's just how many different things that they get over, because 5e, it's just like, you get one thing here, you get this thing here. You don't really get much to pick and choose. It as levels become, get higher and higher, it becomes more and more unique and more wholly kind of yours.
I will
Unless
say,
you're following, like a meta, this is the best class.
Yeah, I will say one critique I have for some classes, and the mages in particular, is there are very obvious feats for the weapon you're using or the type of thing that you're going to do.
If you're sticking to a certain weapon, that makes sense. Yeah.
So your path can be kind of decided. Like, why would you take something for a ranged weapon when you're primarily using a sword or a polearm?
Maybe you want to branch off.
You definitely could. But it feels like an illusion of choice for some classes. But when the class can do so many things, it's like picking a subclass, and these are the things that you get. It's not really that bad of a thing.
5e feels more stagnant in comparison to
this. I feel like I'm learning and growing in this, whereas 5e is just kind of like, you either are all of the spells in D&D, and then there's so many spells and so many different restrictions on who can cast what, how, and when, that it feels more unique. So that's what I enjoyed. The summoner and the mages are kind of half casters.
Yes, and they both feel very unique and different than everything else that we've seen in Pathfinder.
And there's spells unique to them or effects unique to them that they introduce later on. But overall, I think exclusively for the next however long I play Pathfinder, I'm going to be within these two classes.
Until you find something different.
Yeah. Oracle, goodbye.
Damn. Like I said before, we may not be the best judge of strength for these things, especially without playing it. And maybe no one is until you actually play, with these classes. But just by looking at them and reading over their feats and what they can do, they look fun and they look enjoyable, and that's enough for me.
Yeah. I do say that while reading Summoner, I felt it wasn't as apparent how to be effective with it because you're dividing so many of your resources.
Yeah, I really liked it.
I love it.
I was all on board for the mechanical aspect of it.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of simple stuff.
A lot of options, things to think about in the middle of, combat.
Yes. It's like the Drake Warden, though. It's just doing an additional dice roll here and there until you get to some of the abilities where you can make your Eidolon have like acid claws for a bit, or whenever you're about to get hit, use reaction to call it over and it blinks out of it. It's like a magic deck. You have so many different spells and stuff that you can cast and react to and counter things. It's a lot of fun. Which
brings us, speaking of casting, to chapter 3.
I love how they did this.
Yeah.
Have they done this before?
Paizo, I believe so. I'm not positive, but this is also something I want to say. I think we're looking at the same thing.
Yes.
I love how Pathfinder lays out their spells. Their spell lists give you a little short summary instead of WotC's, where just like, here's all the spells this class gets. Go find them in the next 40 pages. It's so aggravating. And this doesn't tell you everything you know, but it just gives you, hey, that sounds cool. Let me go find it.
So there's things I love, like gravity and teleportation
I would
stuff.
love a page number, but that's all right.
Yeah. I see things like gravitational pull, and I'm like, I know what to look out for when I get to the spell section. I know what stuff I'm excited about. This is the arcane spell list. I'm picking an arcane eidolon.
Boom.
Okay, there we go. I know exactly what I'm doing. I will critique inefficient use of space and resources. They list the same spells in all of the things. I feel like they could have ordered it a different way, but this is really useful to the players. I'm only using arcane spell lists.
I think they have to, just because of the way the spells are organized in Pathfinder. Yeah.
But it gives the illusion that there are more spells, but you start reading, like, there's a lot of the same ones here. But that's fine. I think this is a really useful way to organize it for people as they went through. Was there anything that stuck out? Like spells that you were interested in?
My highlights, first of all, in the page before the spell list, it says time magic. Boom. I don't need to know anything else. That sounds exciting. But then the ones I said to Braxton before I showed him, I was like, hey, we should do this for this week. The summon kaiju spell. That's just, that sounds so cool. I don't even care how effective it may or may not be, but I want to summon a kaiju. I thought it was weird, though. It makes sense when I think about it, though. It's a primal spell, not a cult spell, but it's a kaiju. I want to be able to summon like some Lovecraftian beast. That's kind of what I think about kaijus, but not necessarily.
Well, kaiju, like in the literal sense, and the way I think they're using it here, is like your Godzillas, your
a beast,
Mothras, etc. So like you could literally summon King Kong if you wanted.
I love it. And then Mind Swap. I also really like Mind Swap.
Mind Swap is really cool.
It's very unique. A lot of the spells in Pathfinder are very different and unique, and I really appreciate it.
There's one that did like let me down a little bit was the Armageddon. It's like summon Armageddon basically from the Divine List. I'm like, what is that? It's just like
intense.
A shitload of damage or a shitload of healing that is brought down by the deity that you worship or revere in certain senses. And there's like these form spells where you can turn into a demon or a daemon. Sorry, two different words, very, very different, which they probably are. My favorite one is bottomless stomach. I am taking that if I am an eidolon and I'm putting things in my dragon's mouth as a bag of holding, and it's gonna be amazing.
It's disgusting.
Think about that. Isn't that so cool?
It is, but it's just crazy and disgusting to think about.
I love it. And there's gravity spells that I would love to use employed with a dragon, gravitational pull, which pulls up to 5 things near you based off how well you roll. And then you get your dragon, you get them out of your party, and you just blast them with the breath attack. There's like oozing of synergy here that I was so excited about. It's an ooze form. Speaking of oozes, turn into an ooze. How amazing is that? There's a spell where you can have a performance go on that dictates destiny. If you perform really well, it can set in line events in the way that you've portrayed. It doesn't say it will for the DM's sake, but like if you perform a play and you really want to convince some nobles to have a turn of heart and maybe show some generosity to the impoverished section of a town, and they are actually so moved because your performance roll on this was great and the spell that you cast is great, maybe you change the entire it's a high level spell, so that's what I'm saying. Maybe you change the entire course of the town and the outcome of how the civilization is and the caste system is. I don't know. Yeah, there's some.
Even if you don't pick these as players, I think for GMs, there's lots of flavor for stuff that they can give to creatures and monsters and people like that.
Yes, I'll say it depends on the level of magic. They have a warning in the beginning that some of the magic options, and I don't think they were talking about the spells in particular, but some of the magic options in this book aren't going to fit for every campaign.
Yeah, I think they're talking a lot about the final chapter.
Yes.
Chapter 5 is where they kind of start going off the rails in a good way.
Magic items, I didn't go too in depth in because I do want to leave those as like a mystery to me because I don't think I'll ever be able to DM Pathfinder unless I like dedicate a ton of time to it.
Yeah, so that's chapter 4. So that was chapter 3 we just covered. So chapter 4, for me, again, I like that the first page kind of does some RP examples and suggestions. I don't know if you know how magic items work in Pathfinder. So like D&D, you can only attune to 3 things. The attunement is called what's it called right here? I had it. Investing into a magical item. And that you can do 10 items, 10 whole magical items, and you can have a 12 if you get a feat. So there's lots of different things, and I'll talk about this later. But to me, I'll talk about it now. Fuck it. The role of magic items in Pathfinder are very interesting to me. Of course, I've not played with them, and I haven't fully covered them in the core rulebook either. These are just new player eyes looking at this. But the power level of the items, some are very strong, some are very weak, kind of all the way in between. I think it's something you get used to because D&D, they're very different, where they just kind of do stuff. They're usually all fairly powerful, especially for the level that you're kind of handing them out. I mean,
I'm almost always underwhelmed or just.
If you're handing out a common item or an uncommon item to level 11, 12 party,
they're always like doing extra D6 damage.
That's more damage is always good, but
it is.
There's so many different types of them in Pathfinder. I think the reason that they need to have this different give or take and the different roles that these items play is because you get 10, so you can kind of mix and match which ones are important and which ones you kind of like and which ones are just kind of fun, which there are some weird fun magical items in here.
Absolutely.
And because Pathfinder, as many people have told us, is Pathfinder Prepare to Die, Pathfinder 2 Prepare to Die edition. It's very...
We've experienced that.
It's very rough and tumble.
Yeah.
A lot of high level punching, even at level 1. I think that's why these items are here. The adventure paths that I remember reading for Pathfinder 1 handed out items a lot. Again, you can get 10, so there's handing out a bunch to all the different players. And so I imagine Pathfinder 2 is very similar. So getting into the items itself, I'm just going to kind of briefly cover them. The Foolus, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but those are like little charms that you can like put on items, and if you take them off, then they fade and you can use them again. But you can craft these, and you craft them in like bunches. And so you can kind of hand them out to your friends and put them on each items. It reminds me of artificer type stuff, but everyone can do this, not just like an artificer ability. It's just a crafting thing. You have to learn how to do it, of course. Some of these are very strong, some not so much, but some are just cool, and they're very not easy to craft, but it's, if you're crafting some, you can craft a bunch. Then we have the Grimoires, which is definitely up your alley with the Lovecraftian and
peek
books.
over those.
Some of these effects seemed a little odd to me.
Yeah.
But I think that might come from me being a novice Pathfinder player. I'm not entirely sure how these would work in an actual game. Because like some of them I'm like, and we have had this covered in comments. People have told us that just because it says that you can do it with this ability doesn't mean you can't do it, period.
Yes.
But it seems weird that why would I need this item in the first place? And I guess the GM might have to change the DC on the fly for certain things if you have this item. Then they got some tattoos. There's only a couple of them, but they seem much more interesting and dynamic than the WotC ones that were put in recently in the D&D. And that's about this. I mean, there's a lot of these. And there were a few that I thought were strange. You mentioned that like doing a concert for a spell. There's a item that does something similar, but it's a one-use thing. And it has to be like pulled out if someone's like questioning you. It's really weird. There's another one that if someone is like, you've like failed a deception check. I can't remember exactly what it is, but they're like have an ill impression of you now. You can quickly pull out this like vial and give it to them. And it has like their favorite drink in the world on it. You have to roll for it, but
I saw spells that were like that too.
It's really
like,
interesting.
Make somebody the scapegoat for the deed that you did. Like there's a lot of really niche social spells.
And I'm curious if these are there, because I mean they're interesting and can change up the RP and combat stuff, but it also I think kind of give players
it gamifies
things to pull on RP. You might not know you can try these things. So you see this as a spell. You're like, I'm gonna try that. Or I get this item. Okay, I'm gonna do this more often. You can kind of spice things up, and I think it's cool.
I think a good way to say it is, and I could be completely off base, but compared to
with our 2 sessions under our belt,
well, I mean, just reading all of these things, there's so many dice and rolls and mechanics to do everything. They've gamified everything. And there is room for RP, plenty of room.
Yeah.
But compared to Powered by the Apocalypse, these are polar opposite systems.
which is why they're out there.
Mhm.
Give you more options to play and pick up with your friends.
So if you've been playing Powered by the Apocalypse and you want to play something that has a mechanic for a thought that you want to do and something you want to go down and a restriction based off of certain items, this is your way. Or if you want to have more freeform and you've been playing Pathfinder, you're a little tired of all the rules in particular, go to Powered by the Apocalypse. Speaking of which, in the Discord, I think Friday we're playing the Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh, the Avatar Legends game.
Yeah, the Avatar Legends game. And that's Powered by the Apocalypse, I believe. So it's more freeform. I
think so, yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
If you want something in between, then play 5th edition, I guess.
You're keeping me in love with 5th edition, but that's
I don't
that's
know
all
if that's
on
the
DM.
mechanics. Yeah, I don't know if that's mechanical or if
Yeah.
that's just the story's kind of reaching a
But
fine
I
point.
definitely don't hate D&D. It just starts
It has a
really
place.
slow.
It has a place for sure.
I think I'd prefer D&D for quicker campaigns.
Yeah,
Leveling
I
up,
can see
go
that.
faster, or at least leveling up a little faster. I don't know. We did skip over rituals magic.
Yeah, I skipped over
Those
a
are
few
really
things,
cool.
But yeah.
Well, just to touch on it really, just a little
Yeah,
bit,
go
just to
for it.
mention that it is there. That's all I want to do.
Oh.
They're very, very, very powerful spells. It's entirely different how it is in D&D. It's not just a restricted cast time. Like an Asmodean.
It does take time, but yeah, it's not like a 10-minute cast.
Yeah, like an Asmodean wager. You make a bet with some sort of devil, Asmodeus, probably not, but somebody of that nature. And there's like 8 or 9.
Yeah,
10
it's
of them.
definitely, it's important
Mind
to note
Swap. You did mention that.
that. Yeah, if you come from
And
5th
the
edition
spell
to
that I
this-
probably mentioned, I think it was a rituals.
I think so.
So we did talk about them.
If you come from 5th edition, definitely it's a good point to say that it
very different.
It is quite different. It's not like, oh, a ritual saves me a spell slot. It's quite different. These I think are more reserved for like if you know you're not gonna be in combat. This is a fun downtime ability.
Yeah. I will also say that. What's up? We're not recording?
It stopped recording at some point.
When?
Oh my god! I'm glad I saw it. No, I'm just gonna hit it and keep going.
Damn. That sucks.
I know. I'll have to check it after the fact.
Okay.
Sorry, video watchers.
Damn, I'm sad. So what I was gonna say though is about the
Been watching that red light. I'm gonna keep an eye on it for the rest of our time that we use this camera.
yeah. What I'll say is some of the art that's been commissioned doesn't match the items that are like the Merciful Mantle says is a deep red cloak, and the one here is kind of like a whitish, and there's like a little bit of red hue there. It doesn't matter that much. Can you change what the item looks like? Absolutely. But why is there a katana there? There's no katana on this page.
Maybe it's on the next page.
No. It's got to be there somewhere. Like North Nightwind's verse. Oh, katana. Okay, I'm just dumb.
Oh.
It's there. But yeah, the cloak. I mean, some of the items don't match exactly, but it doesn't matter. No, probably not.
All right, the final chapter.
This was like levels of
Book of Unlimited Magic.
Icewind Dale final chapter blowing me away.
Yeah, it reminds
It's a
me
lot.
of the final chapter as well in, God, was it Mordecai? No. Tasha's, where it just like covered all like environmental stuff
Yes.
and lots of different types of magic.
Well, it's a lot to go over.
It is.
If you remember reading the core rule book for Pathfinder 2nd edition, they talk about Golarian, how there's different areas of the world that abide by different volumes of magic and different methods of casting magic. And all of these are a part of the world. And in here, they dive way more into that.
Yeah.
If you want your world, the area you're in, to abide by ley lines and give your players certain benefits and ways to interact, like actual feats to pull from the ley lines in fights, or an elemental class archetype is what these are known as. Geomancy, the ley lines that I mentioned, like pervasive magic, that it's just everywhere all the time.
I love the pervasive magic.
Yeah, tell us about it.
Well, I think so a lot of this gives you customization for
Yes.
players, and specifically the section brings in like GM stuff that they can pull into the game. And I love how the pervasive magic, it gives you more things to flavor towns, flavor areas of the world, and it has some more backgrounds. It's very cool, very flavorful.
Yeah, you want all of your villagers to be able to use cantrips and stuff at will. I mean, give them the level 2 feat cantrip casting. They can all just kind of do that. And after you get through all of that, and there's a lot involved in it, we brush right through it, but it's almost the chonkiest section of this entire thing.
Yeah, they're kind of like, some of them are like subclasses in a way. They build upon themselves. I think the best way to say it is they're adding feats that fit around a certain theme. And if you really like that theme, boom, just head straight into it. And I kind of wish D&D did things like this, but I think the problem is they've locked themselves into what they have now. And we've talked this before, but the concepts brought up here are almost staggering in their scope. There's so much going on in these, but it's, I don't know.
We'll get to that in a second.
I love the originality. That's definitely in this section.
What I love, and this is what I want D&D to transition to eventually, how it says, make your own adjustments.
Yeah.
And it leaves it at that. This says, here are, for pervasive magic, because it's so damn rampant, and a lot of the monsters that exist, it's going to be a lot of work for you DMs, GMs, to flavor these and add mechanics. It's going to take some extra time. Here are some ways to arcanely adjust your monsters based on their creature level and what spells they can cast and what spells you can give them. Are they a divine beast, an occultic adjustment, a group of commoners that worship some sort of otherworldly being? Here's some crap you can add on to them. Oh my gosh, is that so useful? Like, wow. And then Shadow Magic has its own section.
Shadow Magic.
And there's a really cool dude covered in thorns, and he looks so
I was going to post that guy in our Discord. I was like, that guy's cool.
That's the coolest image. It's on page 227 for those of you whenever you get your hands on this book. So cool. And these are genuine focus spells and feats that you can add. And it's like, this is where it comes in. If you were thinking your class didn't have enough options, throw these in. This is going to be so fun for you. Shadow Soul Seeds was also really cool. It's basically like gifts that you've received or just inherent magic ascendancies that you've gotten. And Soul Forged Armaments was really cool. These fancy weapons and think of like a magic's always on my mind, but like a Voltron deck. You're just throwing a bunch of magic armor, equipment, and enchantments onto things. It's so amazing. And then one of my favorite was Rune Lord, the fused polearm that they did, the class archetype.
It's a polearm.
Well, it's a staff that you've tied to a blade, and now you have the traits of both, and it's a polearm, and it's sick. And then they go into a ton of stuff about runes and how they work. Lots of flavor stuff. And then true names like vampires and demons and stuff.
Yeah, the true names was an interesting section to me, especially because there's a whole like downtime mechanic where you can try to research and learn about a true name of some entity. And the critical success for it is that you might not learn all of it. You might not learn even what it is, but you can find out where you can get it from, some adventure that will lead you there, which I think is, I guess, maybe important to have, but I feel like it might be the GM's job to, if this true name is really important to the campaign, it should be
it'll
explicit.
Be in there.
Yeah.
But I think there can be a way for you to entirely miss it. It's like getting the Sunblade versus Strahd or not.
But how would you, sitting in a town, be able to find the true name of some far off demon in the abyss?
Well, I don't think it's sitting in a town. It's like if you've seen Blood Blockade Battlefront, names are big in that. So there's a genre of vampires where being able to defeat them, you almost need to know their true name. And maybe their exploits are really, really influencing a certain area. It's in Strahd's domain, per se. To you might not even know that you're in the Shadowfell or Ravenloft, but you're sitting in this town and trying to think, like, what is this true name? And you're reading and you're seeing records of this count. And it's one thing leads to another, and you see Strahd, whatever his full name. I don't remember, but I think it's the GM's job to make the sitting in a tavern and thinking about this makes sense of how you got into that. It shouldn't just be an asshole.
The resources you have available. It says specific. The GM creates the DC, so of course it's whatever you decide.
Yeah.
I do like that the critical failure though is the entity learns of your presence.
Oh my god, yeah, because you're poking into them.
Yeah.
The critical success for using against them is you basically get the suggestion spell cast against them from 5th edition. They do. You can tell them what to do because they're really afraid of what you can do. You can harm them, basically. They won't harm themselves. So that's why I say it's like the suggest spell. But yeah, that's really cool. And then Wellspring Magic, I saw your note on it, so I'll leave that to you. You just said, oh boy. Yeah, the
Wellspring Magic is just, it screams wild magic to me.
There's some sort of Super Saiyan monkey dude over here casting like 12 spells at once on page 249.
It makes me feel like wild magic from Sorcerer. There's a little bit more going on to it, just like wild magic has a little more going on to it. But then it comes to this gigantic table of things that can happen, and it's Oh man, this type of stuff always makes me nervous, and I've never wanted to play a character like this. But it could be fun.
If you're playing an Oracle, and this is the example they give, their Oracle poster child, the what's the race name or the ancestry name for crows?
Oh, I don't know if it's Kinku, but I know that
Kinku,
name.
that's it.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So the Kinku Oracle has like a bunch of birds floating out of him, and he looks like he's summoning some sort of crazy thing, and they're in the middle of a fight. And the witch class is like, what is going on?
I know.
They're on a boat somewhere. It's like, I can't leave this guy.
This one says, for 1 minute, everyone within 30 feet of you can hear your surface thoughts.
Mental broadcast.
That's scary, man. I don't want
so
anyone to
cool.
hear my surface thoughts.
And then you get the glossary, and you're done.
Yeah, that's Secrets of Magic.
Wow. And then they say, hey, Guns and Gears is coming.
Yeah, I love that. They're already teasing their next. It feels like a comic book.
Yeah. No,
Which to be fair, this was delayed. So
yeah, that's true. I can see why. There's a lot of stuff in it. A lot of mechanics to talk about. There's one type of somewhere, which single one, Paizo. I needed to tell you, but it's in one of the subclasses. So hopefully that narrows it down. I can't remember specifically.
Maybe they found it already.
It's you to your, or your to you, and it's the beginning of a paragraph. So here you go. There you go. Play tested for you. Good job. Don't yawn.
I'm tired. Dude, I've had a day and a half,
Me
man.
too,
I'm tired, man.
I worked all day.
I walked like bunch of miles on campus in like 100-degree weather.
Oh yeah. At least it was kind of a dry heat. At least I think it was. It's time. I walked outside today, and I went, whoa. Well, it is surprising. I can't go outside in the summer.
This is true.
Man, it kills me.
I apologize, though, our video watchers, for
yeah. I'm anxious to find out when it happened.
Yeah, when it happened. Maybe I pumped into it a second time when I was, I don't know, because I turned it on. I don't know when it happened. I went to double check.
Yeah.
That's sad, though.
Also, Paizo, thank you. This was a lot easier to go through than some D&D supplements that come out. I love the extra content, but it just flowed well, and I didn't get as fatigued going through it.
Very cool.
Very, very cool. Pictures are great.
Love the art. I don't think I mentioned that, but I love the art in this book.
The art is amazing. It's so cool. Look, would you look at that dragon?
I'm looking at it.
Thank you. He's like, don't say my true name. Stop.
So as we come to the end of it, we said it already, but I do recommend this book yet again for $14.99. That's a steal.
If you play Pathfinder, this is what I'm going to say. If you play Pathfinder and you're a GM, get the book hands down.
Okay, if you're a player.
If you're a player and you've played tabletop RPGs, and now I'm turning to the people I was making fun of for saying Oracle is too complicated to play, there's options in this that are a bit complex. Unless you're interested in the summoner and the magus, I don't think you need to get it. Your GM will have the items, they'll have all the flavor, and you'll get to experience this book. But if you want to play those classes, buy it. Okay. I do recommend you to read it at least.
Yeah, I'm going to add to that. If you play a magic caster, I should say.
Yeah.
Definitely check it. I mean, I guess you don't need to purchase it.
Hopefully your GM has it.
$14.99 is not too steep.
Yeah.
You can pick it up and just read the first couple of chapters, read some of how the spells work and that type of stuff. And I'm even gonna say it. If you have the extra cash lying around and you don't play Pathfinder, you maybe coming here for our D&D content.
Yeah.
Maybe check it out as well to bring it into your own RP as casters in other games you play.
Yeah. I would say this so far is my favorite supplement that I have read for pure content mechanics and classes. Certain portions of Eberron,
the 200 pages,
still pull me, but this beats to me Tasha's and Xanathar's.
Eberron's
it's a different type
setting
of
book.
I'm just talking in general things that have come out for tabletop RPGs that I play.
Gotcha.
This is up there. It was a blast to read. These two classes that I've been really hoping for, that I always play as in any game that comes out. And the cover is just badass. Look at that thumbnail.
Yeah.
That we've
shout
got
out to Logan Bonner and Mark Seifter.
I love the way he draws the dragon for the Eidolon dragon for the summoner.
Yeah, that is as Wayne Reynolds.
Wayne Reynolds.
Oh, I think there's a lot of artists in here.
Yeah, good work. I like the unified nature that they've got, but I also do enjoy the variety that WotC has in their magic too, or in their art, and you can use it everywhere, which is cool.
Pretty much.
Yeah, this was a blast. This is our first dive through something new that's come out for something other than D&D.
And we got another one in a month, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe a month and a half. I can't remember.
I'm excited.
I think it's October. That's when the Guns and Gears comes out. But I'm not positive.
All right. We need to try to say her username one more time.
Troubadoring-do.
No, it's like
Troubadour.
bad.
Yeah, it's Troubadoring-do.
Troubadoring-do. That's it. Hands down. Troubadoring-do or something like that. It's like troubadour, daring, and I don't know. Do. And do, because they do it. Something like that. She is very excited for the next book to come out because there's a class that she's interested in. So
see, I'm excited for the the ghosts one.
Really?
Yeah, well, yeah.
When's that coming out?
Not for a bit. I think that was a little bit later.
Well, they're churning stuff out. They're getting it out, just like we are.
We are, yeah.
If you're interested in seeing the stuff that we're doing, even behind the scenes and outside these episodes, we have social media that we do stuff at sometimes at Dungeon Crawl Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Also have a Gmail, gmail.com. Thank you. That's just it. We are Gmail. DungeonCrawlPod@gmail.com. And there's a link tree there as well with our Discord. You can jump in. We might be getting our anime watch stuff back together where, we all sync up at a certain time and on our own devices and watch the thing for copyright reasons. Got to get legal stuff going on that way, but that'll be fun. Seasonal anime. We've got the Avatar game that's happening, a Pathfinder game that's happening. We've got possibly another one of our players wants a campaign to get going.
Legends game.
Avatar. There's like people coming in running game systems.
Yeah.
If there's one that you know how to run and don't have people for, jump on and hang out there for a bit. We'll see if you're cool, if you're on the up and up, and then maybe we'll run a game with you. Yeah. Also, one of the best ways to support us will be on Patreon, where you can directly put things into our wallets so that we can get more mic stands, and we have 12 mics floating around. Everything there should be going to improve the podcast for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, we're going to get in a more stable studio kind of setup for not only Crawl, but also for our live play podcast Chronicles, and it should be fun.
Should be fun. And to our patrons there currently, we've got a couple of people in the Dungeon Crawler tier and above. Rolling across the screen right now. Squid, still king of the hill at the moment. Reigning supreme. Thank you guys so much for that. That's all I've got.
Dude, I'm tired. I don't have the energy to come up with something fun. So I'm going to tell you right now, what's the Uncle Sam thing? He's like, I choose you.
I choose you.
I choose you to go to Apple
you.
Podcasts and rate us 5 stars on iTunes.
Do that thing.
You know what's sad? I was actually thinking about, like back in the day, we used to get Arnold Schwarzenegger's been on the podcast. We had Salty on the podcast as well, doing the Apple Podcast read. And now that we have a camera, they don't want to come on anymore.
Yeah, I don't know where they went.
They can't.
We can't pay them for the visual appearance.
Yeah.
That's really
Arnold's
expensive.
very busy.
Yeah, we could probably get him behind the camera at some point.
Maybe, yeah.
If we weren't tired, I might go over there and talk. They are watching right now. They
100%.
come by every single episode. But yeah.
Thanks for watching. We will see you guys next week for a great banging episode. As always,
he's been Ryan.
He's been Braxton.
This is the Dungeon Crawl. Thanks for crawling with us. See you guys next time.
Let us know in the comments what you think of Secrets of Magic.
And correct things that we've said so that we can learn more.
Yes, please.